Chair, I'm going to speak tonight about a very particular group, that's children with visual impairment, just because I lived it for the last 15 months with my own 8-year-old. But I think, other deputies have mentioned the As I Am report. I think you could pick any group and talk to their specific needs, or indeed any child, because every child is unique and will have experienced this pandemic in a particular way. It's worth saying at the outset that certainly my experience and many parents' experience has been that the schools really tried their hardest, and visiting teachers, resource teachers, class teachers, the incredible SNAs that are like part of your family really did heroic work during the pandemic to bridge the gap that that Corona threw up and which it exposed in our services. NGOs did a huge amount of work for children with visual impairment. The NCBI, the National Council for the Blind, they gave support, they gave advocacy, they gave advice. Parents groups, so for us it was FAIC, and groups like Child Vision Down in Drumcondra. What it did throw up was two particular areas. One was the impact and the disruption that it had on a child's academic life. But then for children with disabilities, it also had a huge impact on the social and developmental side, the emotional side of their life, which they access through the school environment. And it's important, I think, that we have these debates and that we put it all out into the sunlight now, so that if we do, and I really hope that we don't see another pandemic like this, or that we don't go into a third lockdown or a third wave lockdown, but it also exposed, kind of failings in our own system, failings in education delivery and services. So for a child with visual impairment, a lot of the academic side that they would be accessing in school is based on assistive technology. Now, for a child in post-primary or in primary school particularly, you're talking about things like CCTV, you're talking about things like reveal technology. These are big, bulky items that the schools wouldn't necessarily send home. I'm not sure that they should be sending them home, and that even if they could, certainly in my constituency, most families wouldn't have a space where you could set up a large screen type learning environment that would be permanent. And therefore, what most children who are in mainstream and who have significant visual impairment were experiencing was a requirement to do a lot of their learning online and through Zoom. Now, for a child with visual impairment, and many children with visual impairment have, co-diagnoses with that. They might be hard of hearing, they might have other complications. Zooms are simply not workable. It's very hard to get a child to concentrate on a Zoom call where they can't see the screen and they're not having the same experience as their compatriots in their class. And that has a huge knock-on effect. But what it really brought to the fore was the need for a greater focus in educational settings on the expanded core curriculum. And this is something that the NCBI talk a lot about, which is everything except the academics. So the visiting teachers are fantastic. I have an excellent experience of them. But their focus and their task from the department is academic, and they're excellent at supporting the other stuff, but really it would be even better if we had a renewed focus on an expanded core curriculum for vision impaired children. That's the social side of things. That's the making friends. That's the taking responsibility for getting yourself to the toilet. It's the occupational therapy side of things. To do that, one very clear thing that we could do would be to recognise the NCBI by the Department of Education and the National Council for Special Education as a complementary service provider, so that they could support children, they could support parents, they could support families, and they could support visiting teachers and the school itself in that kind of more social side of how education is experienced by children with visual impairment. And finally, on the Disability Matters Committee today, we got a very, very clear discussion from the Chief Commissioner of the Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission on the need for better data. There's a huge gap between the self-declared vision impairment in the census and the amount of children in our educational system who are receiving support. And that simply doesn't add up. So we need to get that right.